Before learning begins, something else must happen first. Students must be ready. This journey represents my transformation, where I learned that readiness to learn is not something we assume, it is something we intentionally design. At the beginning of this journey, I was working in elementary classrooms, observing students across different grade levels. While instruction was happening, I began to notice something deeper. Many students were physically present, but not always mentally or emotionally ready to learn. Something wasn't fully connecting. As I continued to reflect, I began to question what learning really looks like. Were students simply consuming content, or truly understanding through meaningful experiences? And with that shift, were they emotionally ready to learn, or still passive and disengaged? That realization changed how I see education. It also made me reflect on my own experience as a learner, where much of my learning was based on memorization and standardization. I began to understand that learning is not about completing tasks, or simply following directions. True learning happens when students have ownership, purpose, and meaningful experiences. Learning is not compliance, it is ownership. With this new understanding, I began to approach learning differently. I realized that meaningful learning is intentionally designed. The valuable resources and experiences throughout this program gave me the tools and confidence to make that shift. I was introduced to frameworks that emphasize choice, ownership, and voice, and authentic learning. I learned to create learning environments where students are not passive, but active participants in their learning. This allowed me to design experiences that support engagement, reflection, and deeper understanding. As my learning continued, I began to understand the importance of using evidence to guide my decisions. This allowed me to make learning more personal by considering what students learn, who they are, and why these experiences matter. I moved from a teacher-centered approach to designing learner-driven environments where students take an active role in their learning. By integrating digital tools and intentional strategies, I learned to reduce barriers and maximize learning for all students. This shift began to transform my practice and how I see learning itself. This phase pushed me to move beyond ideas and into action. I realized that innovation requires more than vision, it demands consistency and accountability. By creating a cadence of accountability, I began to build habits that support long-term leadership, even in the daily classroom environment. I started to see myself not only as a learner, but as someone capable of leading meaningful change. This meant influencing others and contributing to a culture of continuous growth. This journey has transformed how I see myself as an educator and as a learner. I am no longer focused on simply delivering instruction, but on designing learning environments where students are ready to learn and actively engaged in the process. This is reflected in my digital yoga and mindfulness innovation, focused on supporting student readiness to learn. I now see myself as a digital learner, a designer of meaningful experiences, and a leader prepared to create positive change. This transformation continues to guide my growth and my purpose in education. Through this program, I have learned how to enhance classroom and school practices with intention. Guided by research, I believe that yoga and mindfulness can support learning environments where students feel safe to explore, experiment, grow, and truly learn. I am committed to implementing this work and continuing to refine it over time to create meaningful and lasting impact. This work has been shaped by key frameworks and research that continue to guide my understanding of learning and instructional design. In meaningful learning environments, learners are supported, not to resist challenges, but to navigate them and grow.